stream where we're going to be going over a lot of the information, how the tournament's going to run, who's participating, and what the pairs are.
Most importantly, of course, Hobo and I are going to be going over who we think is going to put the smackdown on as a mentor-student pair at the final part of this Twitch, talking about like how strong we think the students are and the mentors and what styles they're going to get into. But yeah, it should be fun. I'm excited. This has been a long time coming.
Yes, sir. At current, we're just finalizing some of the different picks from the mentors so we can formalize the pairs.
Yep. While we're talking about that, for most people, we've said the word mentor and student a couple of times now, so would now be a good time to go into some aspects of what the tournament is. I can do that while you're finalizing picks in the background.
Wonderful.
Excellent. So for those of you who haven't seen, I don't know, the Reddit, Discord, YouTube, Twitter, the people talking in Little Wargame, the Mentor Tournament is a tournament that Hobo and I came up with, the idea of which is as follows. There are people who play Little Wargame, and perhaps they're either new or of lesser experience and skill than they would like to be for how long they've been playing the game. Enter the Mentor Tournament. We got a bunch of people to sign up as students, people who want to learn from a mentor, and mentors, people who are willing to coach the students. We then pair up these mentors in a 1-to-1 ratio with students that the mentors select from the pool of all available students, and then over 4 weeks, those student-mentor pairs play best of threes against each other in a round-robin league format. This will go on for 4 weeks, and points will be tallied according to how successful you are, or the students are rather, in their individual games and their overall matches. Once that's done, at the conclusion of 4 weeks, we will tally up all of the points that have been accumulated by all of the players. The top 4 of the 8 student mentor teams will go into a single elimination tournament for week 5 to say who, once and for all, was the best mentor-student pair. I think that about covers the gist of it. Is there any aspect of that I missed, do you think? Just as a general introduction?
No. How about who is running this tournament? Who are we? Who are you?
Oh, okay. Oh, who am I? Who am I? That's a good question. Who am I? Existentialism notwithstanding, I'm Atano Circus. I've been involved in the Little Wargame community since about mid-summer of 2014, perhaps a little bit earlier. I currently work as a moderator in the game. I also moderate the Discord, and I'm the primary person running the Little Wargame RTS YouTube channel. I also helped with some of the details, but not the overall planning of tournaments, such as the one that we're running now with Hobo's Mentor Tournament. Speaking of which, Hobo, just who are you?
You know that guy living under the bridge down the road? That's
No.
not me, sorry.
Okay, okay. That's good to know.
So, just a moment.
The joys of tournament organization being what they are. Let's see, a couple more things about me while we're waiting for Hobo and while he's currently distracted with, the vagaries of actually doing a tournament administration and moderation. Like I said, I've been playing since 2014. I've moved more into a content creation role. I think what I enjoy most about Little Wargame has to be theory crafting and the power of what you can do in the editor. That's not that I'm opposed to 1v1 or ranked. In fact, I quite like it, and I have my own fairly strong ideas on it. That said, I'm not the strongest player. There are certainly players who've been playing for less time who are stronger than I am, but I've been watching a lot of games recently, and I've watched a lot of games over the years. I just genuinely enjoy all aspects of Little Wargame. The only thing I think I can say, not that I don't enjoy or that I'm just neutral to, is sprite making. And that's not because sprite making is inherently evil. I'm just inherently bad at it. I've put no time in it whatsoever. But outside of that, I pretty much actively love and embrace most aspects of the Little Wargame community.
I'm almost done.
Certainly. And additionally, when we're going over this mentor tournament, it's something that we're going to talk about is as follows. Remember how I said it's a 4-week round-robin league format with a 5th week that's going to have a single elimination tournament at the end? Well, for those of you who like your little wargame content or perhaps enjoy watching little wargame content, maybe you even like higher level replays than you enjoy playing the game. There are many people who have that perspective. Good news for you. Hobo and I are going to be tag teaming to cast all of the games for this entire tournament over the course of the next 5 weeks. So you are going to get your fill of little wargame, and if you don't worry, you're going to be overfill. We are going to absolutely stuff you with content.
My mouse disappeared.
As it does. I have cats for just such an emergency. I don't have to worry about mice. I actually only have one cat. His name is Ash. He's a senior kitty. He's quite a lovely cat. He's very well behaved. I think he's got some wild in him. But we're not here to discuss the wildness of my cats, more the wildness of these people and who they're going to be playing. So I know that you're doing some organization in the back there, Hobo, before you can introduce yourself. But if you don't have time for that, perhaps I should go over a bit about each of the mentors that we have for this tournament.
Sure.
Excellent. So the mentors are going to be one of the things we're going to do today is have the mentors select, and we're going to explain to you the selection of the mentors for each of their students. Again, there are more students than there are mentors, so there's only going to be a 1-to-1 ratio of mentor to student, so that newer people or perhaps less experienced or less people that are less skillful than they'd like to be can get that proper coaching and that proper community engagement. So, with that, I think it's appropriate to introduce these mentors. And I'm going to introduce them in the order in which they're going to be picking people. So, first up, we have Visixfan. Secondly, we have Rynus. Third up, we have PranksterGangster. Fourth is Norm. Fifth is Humon. Sixth is SatCitAnanda. Seventh is Aicy. And eighth is Globa. And if
Just to
you
interrupt you for just one
need,
moment, would you be able
yeah,
to send Prankster the list of participants so we can get his
yeah.
pick finalized? Thank
Oh
you.
yeah, absolutely. I could do that.
And to go on a slight tangent away from introducing the people, now that I'm a little bit more free, I am
Okay.
Hobo.
You
Not
got to
too
give them
much
more
more to
than
say to
that.
that. I've
Oh,
been a long-time member of the community. I've hosted tournaments. I've played in tournaments. I have lost and done decently well in some tournaments, but uh, I've done map making, yada yada yada, and now I'm hosting this tournament. The goal of this tournament is, contrary to a lot of the tournaments in the past, it's not so much for winning. The goal itself is not to get that first place prize, it's the experience along the way. It's the bond forged between the students and the mentors, as well as the people watching and helping these people practice. It's about personal improvement and growth.
Yes, absolutely. We're not averse. I think we can speak to everyone when we say we're not averse to doing tournaments where people, we get the absolute most hardcore, like teeth grinding on metal competition. But also, this is a fun game. We want more people to enjoy this game. We want the people who currently play it to hit their own personal goals for improvement. And if that happens to be winning this tournament, great. If it happens to be just getting a coach to point out what they're doing wrong, that's also great. And this is also a means for even you watching right now. If you don't get selected and you're a prospective student, or if you're outside of this tournament entirely, like join the Discord, reach out on YouTube, find us in littlewargame.com, sign up as a guest account just to see what's going on. Like this is for you as well, even if you're not directly involved.
Mm-hmm. That's not to
Okay.
say people should not be competitive if they're playing in this. By all
Oh,
means.
no. There's just degrees of competition, right? And that's not a slight on anybody. That's, you're in this to try and coach and improve. And hopefully that's what we're working on here is that the student will want to improve. And the mentors are all people who have also signed up to accept the mentor role. So they're signing up with the intention of helping people, and students are signing up with you wouldn't sign up for something called the mentor tournament unless you had a certain degree of wanting to win, right?
Mm-hmm. On this topic, do you want to continue introducing the mentors?
Oh, absolutely. So the mentors are more than just the names that I said on screen and that I introduced in the following order. So I'm going to give you a little bit of feedback about each one of them. So, Visixfan is a person who has done some, let's just say, body casting. I've seen him play a variety of styles, although most recently I've known him to play. He used to play Beast, and I've also known him to cheese quite a bit. In fact, when he played in the Little War Game Team League Season 1 on Team Daz or Team Dragon Archer Z, he was the second star of that team, and he would cheese a lot of opponents. And for those of you who don't know what cheese is, you know how you want this large, long, sweeping game where people play like, hardcore decision making? Physics is the guy who's like, nah, well, what if I just end this game in 4 minutes? I mean, if I win in 4 minutes, it's better than winning in 30, right? Then we have Rynus. Rynus's name has actually become Little Wargame terminology. He is popular for the Rynus Ball, which is where you get a giant number of catapults. So many that, okay, catapults, for those who don't know, in game, they have a minimum range, which means if a unit's too close, they can't fire. So Rynus invented or uses the Rynus Ball, which is you have so many catapults that the sheer surface area of them means that all the catapults are body blocking and providing the space required for all of the catapults. Like, it's just a truly preposterous, like, one punch heavy repair mech style. Then we have PranksterGangster, who has rapidly ascended himself. He's actually primarily, I knew him as a modder, a person who works in the Little War Game editor, but he has sharpened his skills considerably on a map called Wave Defense, where basically he made a mod that encourages people to defend by macroing, by just making more stuff. And the process of making and testing that map has actually just dramatically boosted his beast-oriented gameplay. So that's fantastic. Norm of the People here is one of perhaps 2 or 3 that need no introduction, but I'll give it to him anyways. Norm is, as his name implies, just a guy who plays a very normal, straightforward barracks or racks unit style. What's interesting about Norm is that he also has a YouTube channel on RTS Guy 28. He just recently made a video, in fact, saying, "Don't tell Aicy, who is the gameplay balance and gameplay designer for the game. Don't tell Aicy, but these units are overpowered." Like, he does his own coaching sessions, and he's made everything from clickbaity titles to long form guides. Norm. Moving on, we have Humon. I joke because Humon reminds me of Lupin, that he's Humon the Third. Humon is, of all the people on this list, probably the god of the editor. Like, what's crazy about Humon is this. You wouldn't think that he would be a mentor because, like, you look at things like on the Little Wargame RTS YouTube channel that I run, I just put up a kiting tutorial. That's because Humon showed everyone how to do that through Raid Wars and Micro Challenge 1. This guy can make things happen in the editor that you just look at it and you're like, what? And then realize he's a multifaceted guy who also is a coach and also, as expected of a modder, is someone who also has a mind for the game and thinks about it in his own way. That's very interesting. So I'm curious to see what he comes up with. Then we have SatCitAnanda. To my understanding, no relation to Hinduism for anyone who gets what Ananda is. But SatCitAnanda is this person who, he's a bit of an older guy. He's a very experienced, he's a reasonably experienced chess player. He also tends to focus more on the cerebral side of the game. Like, okay, you could do this, but what about this instead? What about this positioning? What about, he looks at the game as more than a series of units with stats. He's like, what do the stats mean? What is the context? Like, something he and I got into an interesting discussion on recently was the idea of, in certain matchups, how you place your buildings, even in not just your initial buildings to make a starting wall, but how you make them to expand and be proactive throughout a map. These are the kinds of things that interest SatCitAnanda. So I expect that we're going to get some very, very technical, but perhaps to other people off-kilter perspective from him. Then the next mentor is Aicy. He is, I don't care what sheet you want to use. Like, even if you're an Aicy hater, which I can't imagine how you could be when if you just watch this guy play. I'd put him as easy top 3 of all time. I personally would put him even higher, and it's not even close in my estimation for Little War Game. This guy's been playing and winning tournaments and grinding for a long time. Like, he played when Armored Wolf v Wolf was pretty much the only way to play the game. He then also is now a guy he's won so many tournaments and played against so many people. Let's put it this way for those of you who don't know who Aicy is. Beating Aicy is something that other people brag about. Like, other people just say, hey man, I beat Aicy, and their record could be like 1-5, but they're still happy that they beat him once. That's the level that this guy is operating on. And if, like, we currently have the existing balance of the game, version 4.3. Before he was Little War Games gameplay balance and gameplay designer officially, this was a guy who's putting in mad hours to figure out imbalances, builds. He was one of the people who was actively pushing for the development of ranked play to be what it is currently. So his position isn't a new one that was foisted on him. He literally just was always in that position. And so if you're looking at the play of the mentors, he's probably just the strongest mentor as a player. So it'll be curious to see where he goes from there. And then there's Globa. I don't know how he has time to do this because Globa is the primary developer of the game at this point. I did an interview with him on Little Wargame RTS if you want to learn more about that. But Globa is a guy who I know for having a very strong beast style. And he is a guy who you don't think of him as a player because you think he's a guy who's been around. Sure, I've seen his name here and there. He was also in the Little Wargame Team League, sure. But who is this guy? And then you play against him and you realize, oh, this is someone who can beat people like Slammer 4. Like, oh, but he's also the developer of the game. So he's a very intelligent, multifaceted person who is nevertheless like a really strong contender as a mentor. So that's how I would introduce all of the mentors in question. Like, you've got a good variety here of strong individual players, theory crafters, and people who approach the game from multiple different angles, different like racial or factional balances. You know, we've got people who only play Rax, who only play Mech, and then who can play all three but prioritize Beast, or can play all three but prioritize Rax. There's a good balance of style and capability inside this group of mentors.
Yes, sir. So, with that, I actually have some exciting news. We have all of the picks now in and finalized. But before we go over all of them, I just wanted to briefly go over the tournament and talk some of the different stuff about how it's going to run, who the people are, just while we get a couple more people before we put the final announcements out.
Drum roll, of course.
So you already talked about how it's going to run. It's going to be a 4-week process. It's going to be a bit of a grind, sacrificing our weekends to show anywhere from 16 to 24 replays a weekend. So the way it's going to run is it's going to be best of 3 formats, where a mentor-student pair is going to fight 2 different pairs each week for the 4 weeks. After the 4 weeks are done, whoever has the most points earned from total wins and total matchup wins, the top 4 duos will go on to the final and to a kind of more standardized bracket for the final week, like a traditional tournament, so to speak. Just going through here, one of the things I did want to highlight as we are now starting it is all of the mentors will be receiving 3,500 gold today. And for each of the weeks that the students participate, they will get 500 gold each week. And I also wanted to go over, before we talk about who has who, I wanted to give compensation to any of the students who do not get picked. I think we have maybe 16, 18 students and only 8 mentors. So unfortunately, not everyone will be picked. And as such, I don't want to make the people walk away feel like why'd they even sign up if they didn't get picked. So, first thing we are going to do for you is anyone who does not get picked as part of the tournament will be receiving the 2,000 gold they would have gotten had they participated. The next thing is they will be able to stand in or replace any one of the students who drop out by pick of the mentor. The next thing is there will be a tournament not too long after this one. It's already in planning and in development, but the people who are not picked as students will have priority to the tournament should they wish to.
This is all to make sure that, as Hobo said, we don't want you to feel, like I went through this effort to go to the Google form and then to clear my schedule and make sure I could do this, and then also like, I really wanted a mentor. We don't want you to feel bummed out and leave. We want you to feel engaged and stay. And also, you're in like the fact that you want to participate is incredibly valuable. It is actually only the fault of basically logistics that we could not have everyone play that wanted to play as a student. I mean, as Hobo was saying, Hobo and I are going to be casting 2 best of 3s a week for 4 times every matchup for 4 weeks, and then we're going to have a tournament at the end in week 5, which will already be quite a grind. And as you may imagine, we're not being compensated financially, so we do have jobs and lives outside as well, but we also understand that you took the time to try and find out about this, to get into this, etc. So we want to encourage that kind of activity in the future. And so stick around, stay tuned. Even if you can't be involved, we're glad that you wanted to be involved, and we will reward you for trying to do so.
That being said, is there anything else we want to go over before we start going over some of the matchups or some of the student pairings?
I don't believe so at this point. Oh, this may be relevant. People are going to want to know, hey, so I've figured out which mentor has picked up which student. When does the tournament start? Can I start right now?
Great question. So, the matches will start the 27th. So that Saturday through the next Friday is when the matches are going to start. In part, this has to do with limitations of next weekend. I won't be able to have time to go over a lot of the games that we would have to stream. Another part is so people can start getting practice before their first match. So that way you're not immediately set into a week where you have to do your initial practice with your with your student and your mentor, and all of a sudden also have your games done by that Friday. So with that, go ahead.
Another benefit for everyone that's being involved here is that I'd also like to reiterate that you'll know the difference will be that on the 27th, we will also let people know what the map will be that will be played for the week, and we will do that for each subsequent week. And you will also know at the start of the week who your opponents are that you have to play in best of 3 matches. So there is one other aspect there is, how do we make the best of 3s work and be legitimate? But I think we can go over that perhaps after we get the mentor-student pairings.
Mm-hmm. So that will give us enough time to get all of the behind-the-scenes work done for preparing the first week of the tournament. Just as a reminder to mentors who will be part of us, all mentors can spectate a game and verify it, as long as it's not your student who is the one playing it. So just to make that a little bit more concise, in the best of 3 matches, both the student has to be present. The mentor can be in a call, watching the stream, especially something like through Discord, screen sharing.
But only if their perspective, right?
Only if the perspective, they cannot play for the student. And another mentor, or Aitan or myself, have to be the spectator watching it. Again, the spectator cannot have an affiliation to either player, and they have to be there to officiate it and get... ideally, the replay is sent by any of the participants, either the students or the mentor, or the spectator. But ideally, we get it from the spectator. Just as long as one of the 3 send it.
I do have a question from the Twitch chat that is along the lines of this. It says, when will the battles be? Like, when will people know when to play their best of 3? Like, let's say next week, they find out what the map is, they find out who their opponents are. When do they play against these people?
So, the matches are going to be scheduled between the two student mentor pairs. So, just for example, if we have Aicy and their student with Globa and their student, it's up to them to find some time in the span of those 7 days to get a best of 3 between their two students in.
So they could do it on day 1 or day 6, is what you're saying.
Correct.
Okay. All right. And as long as there's an officiator, as long as there's somebody spectating, again, the spectator cannot be the mentor of either any mentor who is not of one of those students can spectate to be official. No, Bito Dago, you don't have to do today only. Well, the first round of matches will not start until February 27th. The first week of matches will start February 27th. It does not start today.
This week. Correct.
Okay.
Anything else we want to go over before this?
Oh, just some obvious rules like, cheating is not good. Outside of that, I think that's pretty much it before we get to the mentors.
Wonderful. And with that, I'm going to start going through the list. I'm only going to be saying the mentor and SatCit saying something.
Yep, he says, so February 27th to March 5th is the length of the first week of best of threes, right? Yes, that would be correct. Because that would start after the map and the matchups are told on Saturday. You will have from then until Friday, that next Friday, of course, being March 5th, to get your best of threes in, like performed and then replay sent in. It's also worth mentioning that we have, each duo is going to have 2 best of threes.
Mm-hmm.
So by the end of week 4, each duo, because there are 8 mentors, will have faced every other one. Round robin league format. You gotta love it.